Hello, and welcome to another episode of Daniel reviews some sort of ace media and then forgets to think of a title for the series, so then you're left with this babbling at the start. Hope you enjoy! A few months ago, Sue Morrow tweeted me and recommended the book to me. It's called Upside Down by N.R. Walker, and I looked at the description, and basically it's a love story between two gay ace males. So I understand why she recommended it to me. And I thought, great, let's read it. But first, I'm going to read the book that I'm reading at the moment, which is completely different. It's like this big fantasy epic, and there's someone getting magically raped. It's weird. But anyway, I'm not very asexual friendly. I thought, I'll read this book first, and then I'll get onto that one. But it's taken me a long time to read that book, maybe because of the magic rape. So I recently got a Kindle, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get this book, I'm going to read it. It's probably not that long, I can get through it fast, go back to the fantasy book. Because romance really isn't my thing. So yesterday, I had a 4.5 hour train journey. So I downloaded the book, and then I read it from start to finish on the train, which was cool. I've never done that before, and it's very interesting because now, since it was only yesterday, I can speak about it, and it's all fresh in my head from start to finish, and I should remember everything, pretty much. So hopefully I'm in a good place to talk about it, to give my impressions, and to say whether I like it or not. If I'm talking too fast, I'm sorry. I have a lot of energy, for some reason. For the first part of this video, I'm not going to give any spoilers. I will just talk about the book in general terms and what I enjoyed about it and what I didn't enjoy about it, aspects of it. And then for the, I suppose, second part of the video, I'll go into spoilers, and I will warn you when that happens in case you want to go read it for yourself. And I'll say right now, if you are on the ace spectrum, and especially if you're aromantic asexual, especially if you're homoromantic asexual, and especially if you're a homoromantic asexual male, then I do recommend that you read it. So yes. So the premise of this book is that there is this guy who identifies as gay, and when the book starts, he's coming to terms with the fact that he may be asexual, and what that means for him, and eventually gets into this relationship, and the majority of the book centers around that relationship, how it starts, how it develops, the good and bad things that can happen in a relationship. And it is worth noting it's a relationship between two asexual people. There is no explicit sex in the book. Sex is mentioned, but nothing really, like I said, explicit. If you're okay with watching the videos on my channel, then you'll be okay reading the book. And I think that is something it does really well. Navigating a relationship as an asexual and the internal dialogue that goes along with that. There are lots of points in the book where I could relate very heavily to what the main characters were feeling or what they were saying, and I'll get to some specific examples in the spoiler section. The story as a whole isn't particularly anything special. If you're looking for this mind-blowing 10 out of 10 story, I'm gonna say it isn't that. I could tell what was going to happen quite early on in the book, and I've never read a romance book before, so it wasn't like I was used to the genre. But that is by no means a bad thing. It is formulaic, but if that doesn't bother you, then the characters are amazing. I liked pretty much all of them, if not all of them. So the characters are great. It's funny. That's another thing. I think there is good humour in the book. There are some bits where I nearly laughed out loud, and I'm a very stoic person, so I don't laugh out loud, especially in public, really. And it will also at points be upsetting. Not in a bad way, but if you can relate to that experience, to being asexual, especially to being alloromantic asexual, there are points where you'll feel sad for the characters. Overall, I'd say it's a happy book, but it has sad moments in a realistic way, which I think personally is a really good thing. About halfway through the book, I was a bit disappointed that everything was going really well. Like there hadn't been a single bad thing that had happened to the main characters, which may sound a bit callous of me, but I don't think it's particularly realistic to have a whole book where everyone is happy. Unless it's a children's book, then it may be fine. But yes, what else do you talk about when you talk about books? Characters, story, humour, romance, I guess. That's a good thing to talk about, given it's a romantic book. Yeah, the main relationship had good chemistry. And yes, I felt their relationship was genuine. I'm not very good at this whole relationship romantic thing. It's all bloody annoying. I suppose the last thing I want to say is that in terms of asexual and aromantic representation, it's flawless, I want to say. Every word that's said about asexuality or about aromanticism is accurate. I really have no complaints in that regard, and it says a lot of important things that if you don't know, if you don't realise, then I think it's good to read just for that reason. I think if I'd read this book when I was younger, about 4 or 5 years ago, it would have opened my eyes to a lot of things I didn't think were possible, and made me feel a lot more comfortable with myself. So as a book for ace representation, it is pretty damn amazing. Also, it has good LGBT plus representation outside of that. The only thing I think was missing really was trans representation. There were gay people, there were lesbian people, there were bi people. There was a polyamorous relationship, although that's not LGBT plus, but it's still inclusivity. I was going to do a spoiler bit, but I'm already running quite long. So I think what I'm going to do is, there is one bit I want to read from it. I'm going to read that, and if I haven't convinced you already, listen to this, then go read the book. You can get it off Amazon, you can get it for a Kindle. I got it for £2, I think, which is crazy cheap. So yes, I recommend it. End of story. Not end of story, because I've got to read some of it. So I will give some spoilers to premise this actually. They're the two main characters, Jordan and Hennessy. Basically they take the same bus to their respective workplaces every morning, and Jordan has this crush on Hennessy, but he thinks it's impossible. One, because he doesn't even know he's gay, and secondly because he doesn't even know that he's asexual. Jordan's friend convinces him to go along to an asexual meetup, and so he goes along to that, and the person who's running the meetup is this same person, Hennessy. And Jordan, being a very awkward person, accidentally admits that he likes him. So that happens, and then they see each other on the bus and then start dating and yada yada yada. Relationship ensues, book goes on. And it all goes well until Jordan gets invited to Hennessy's flat and they start kissing. They'd established that kissing is something they both like, but Jordan finds that when it gets a bit more physical, so they start making out, Jordan gets aroused, and that's never happened to him before. So up to this point he thought he was asexual, then he gets aroused, something that he's not really familiar with, and it freaks him out. And then he basically runs off, not explaining to Hennessy what went wrong, and that's basically the big conflict near the end of the book. Jordan feels like he's no longer asexual, that he was lying to Hennessy about that, and Hennessy had said he only wants to date asexual people because he's been in relationships in the past where they've accepted his asexuality at first, but then they still expect sex eventually, and that's something that does happen. That's something, well, it happened to me, so it definitely happens. Hennessy and some of Jordan's friends conspire to get him to go to the next asexual meetup. So he's brought there against his will, kind of, and then Hennessy starts introducing the discussion topic for the meetup. And that's what I'm going to read to you now. What I wanted to talk about today is really important, I started. There's a huge misconception about what being asexual means. Asexuality is such a huge and broad spectrum. It isn't black and white. There is no right or wrong. To be asexual is simply defined as sexual orientation, characterized by a persistent lack of sexual attraction towards any gender. To simplify a complex subject, an asexual person doesn't experience sexual attraction. But the important difference is that sexual attraction and sexual desire are not the same thing, okay? That's the tricky part. Let me say that again. Sexual attraction and sexual desire are not the same thing. To experience sexual desire doesn't make someone not asexual. Sexual desire does not make your asexuality invalid. In the ace community, we are neither entirely with or without sexual desire, with or without engagement in sexual activity, with or without sexual drive. The stereotype of asexuals being wholly non-sexual or without any hint of attraction towards others is not who we are. Being asexual is varied and diverse, as is the complex relationship between sexuality and attraction. To some extent, we all come with a sexual expectation attached to our bodies. It becomes internalized, reinforced, and replicated through major veins of society. In the workplace, the doctor's office, at home, on TV, movies, in books. I haven't met one other asexual person who has not, at some point, internalized their sexuality with social narratives and expectations. Sometimes we don't even know we do it. Sometimes we're our own worst gatekeepers. Like I said before, desire and attraction are not the same thing. To experience sexual desire does not make someone less asexual than someone else. Asexual people can engage in sexual pleasure. It doesn't make them any less asexual. Sometimes our bodies betray our minds, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Your asexuality is still valid. And the thing that hit me during this was, sometimes our bodies betray our minds. And that describes how I feel a lot of the time perfectly. My body, human bodies, are sexual in nature. Sure, that's not the only thing they do, but a large part of any biology is reproduction. And reproduction for humans, for mammals, is sex. So our bodies do certain things, our bodies tell us certain things which confuse us. There's a difference between what we feel, ourselves, what we think, and what our bodies feel, what it's designed to do. It doesn't matter how your body feels. What matters is how you feel. And if you feel you're asexual, you're asexual. To finish a very long video, no doubt, this book is pretty spectacular. If you're asexual, if you can relate to this, then you should definitely read it, in my opinion. It's definitely enjoyable, and like I said, you can get it on Amazon. So to round it off, I'd like to thank Sue for recommending this book to me. I already have in person, but I'd like to do it publicly as well, because I can. And I'd like to thank the author, N.R. Walker. This book is invaluable to the ace community, so thank you. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. I post videos every Saturday, so if you want to see more, then feel free to subscribe. That's all I had to say today. Have a wonderful day, and I shall see you next time. The monsters and the magic and all those things. My characters must hate me so much because I put them through hell, and then I kill them. And I'm sounding really callous in this video. I'm a horrible, horrible person. Anyway, killing. No, books.